Hi, in this episode I'll be talking to Jake, Lloyd and Ollie, the boys behind the new Underwater Whales series coming to YouTube in the very near future. Over a brew, some cakes and a beer, we talk about the equipment, the wildlife and the fun times they've had this summer filming their series to highlight the diving and marine environments of North and South Wales in both the English and Welsh languages. Do you fancy a brew? Look at you on the Corona! Nobody said it was bring a beer. I'd have got a beer.
Alright. It's 7:15 on a Saturday night. It's a kind of brew.
Anyway, so Ollie, Lloyd, Jake, I'm just trying to get this cake down my face. Welcome to Fancy a Brew special bonus edition. We're usually going to talk about something that's coming out very soon, I believe. So Jake, take it away, give us a bit of an introduction to everybody and tell me whatever you want to tell me.
Thanks for having me on again, and thanks for getting the team to join in on this one. So it's me, Jake, JD Scuba, Lloyd, I don't know what corner he's in, but Lloyd was wearing the 03 top, Kraken Productions, and then Ollie wearing the knit tunic, Ollie Putman. And then between three of us over the summer, we've been recording a new Wales diving series, which is called Wales Best of the West, or in Welsh, Cymru Gorllewin, which is really hard to say, and we could have made it much easier name, I think, at points. But yeah, it's been a crazy summer. And as all things, it went really well. Everything's got loads of cool stuff and loads of things seen. But a lot of things that you won't be seeing in part of the series are quite funny. I mean, between three of us, two of us did some serious mistakes, topside, not below the water. And yeah, I think Lloyd did one of the funniest mistakes on the way to the first weekend of diving. And yeah. He doesn't like to talk about it because it's something that none of us want to do, but he'll tell you the rest of the story.
Come on then, Lloyd, fill us in.
Well, I just will start off by saying it's not my fault that, everything, in North Wales decides to close at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So every single petrol station north of Brecon closes at about 5 o'clock. So I'm about an hour away from Jake. Or 100 miles away or so, stop at the nearest petrol station to get some fuel. Sorry, we're closed. Okay, where's the next one? Yeah, it's just up the road. Sorry, we're closed. Sorry, we're closed for about 7 petrol stations.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, yeah, it's not bad now, I've got about 100 miles left on the clock, I can get it, just about reach Jake's house, show up at the very last petrol station before Jake's, and it's closed, and I'm left with about 6 miles left in the tank there.
Oh, poor baby.
Make it worse.
So the boys were like, we're on our way to the dive site now, so we can come back and get you if you want. And I said, no, don't worry about it, boys, I'll be fine now. The guys are going to bring some fuel for me from the next garage. And they went, yeah, no problem, but we'll see you later, bye.
But you can never be late for a night dive. So by the time we got in the water, and considering we could have tried to offer to pick him up, it was about midnight. And yeah, it was a really good night dive. And we all turned up at home at the same time, about 2 in the morning.
That's it. You, to be fair, the night dives I do, I'd say we're getting in at dusk, but you probably go for it, getting in at like 1:30 in the morning and proper night diving, hardcore.
Yeah, like it was. That one was a specifically really late start because of that.
Really long one we did was pretty late as well. But I think we were in the water about maybe 11:30 or something. Thought we'd have an hour in there. Got out and it was like 1:30 in the morning, wasn't it?
Jeez.
Oh yeah, ended up being like it was 2.5 hours in the end.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Filming the seagrass.
I guess they're pretty shallow these then, if it get that long.
Yeah, so for that one we're up in Portlandshire in the seagrass bed, and it's I think what was our max depth? Something really ridiculous, like 4.5.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, not bad.
So yeah, 2.5 hours worth of diving was pretty fun to do it though. I mean, the SD cards were pretty limited by the end of the evening to get all the stuff that we wanted and what we wanted to film in that site specifically, which was.
I've been reliving it this weekend because I've just been doing some editing on that episode.
The trailer's ready to go. I think we gave you a sneaky peek of it.
Mate, I've got to say, I don't really know everybody's background. Obviously, I've only spoke to Jake, really. That's got to be BBC quality, that. It really has. And well, I'm just somebody who watches telly, so I don't know anything. So if my point of view is worth anything to you, it's well done.
No, Ollie's in control of all the edit, so
yeah,
his master skills that he's got.
Yeah, I've got Gotta have good footage to put in it. So no, good to hear that though, mate. And you never know,
So,
one day it might be.
What is your background then, you two? Because obviously I've met Jake, I've spoke to him.
Well, so at the moment, I probably do this sort of work about half of my time, underwater filming and aerial and drone stuff. The rest of the time I work as a joiner, doing joinery, quite a bit of building stuff as well. Yeah. So that keeps me busy, keeps the money coming in. Before this, I worked abroad for quite a few years as a dive instructor out in Australia and Asia, about 6-7 years. Ended up coming back to the UK and
why? What the hell for?
I don't know.
It's shocking over here.
Because no, it's a great job and that, but you're only ever sort of earning to enough to just live.
Right.
So you're never really getting much further than that. So I sort of wanted to do a few other things, and then by the time I was back here, I was sort of got to thinking, how can I carry on working in diving and getting paid for it, and I sort of started to get into the underwater photography and filming while I've been working as an instructor, just as a sort of hobby. But then that sort of got taken a bit further. Went out to South Africa. It was like in 2014, I think, first time I went out there to work on one of the white shark internships.
Right.
And obviously at that point I was like, I've got to take photos and video of all this, and then after that it sort of became, I've got to do this all the time. So yeah, sort of gone from there, and here we are today. So
right, I need to get you back on in a couple of weeks and we'll chat about this white shark stuff, because it's pretty intriguing, that, to me.
Yeah, definitely.
To be fair. Do you know David Diley? Are you mates with him?
Yeah, I do quite a bit of work with David. We were just up in the Farne Islands last month, actually shooting something with his business. So
I had him on quite early on, talking about Shark and Man and a few other bits that he was doing. I really sort of warmed to him. I've not had an opportunity to do anything or talk to him since, really.
Yeah.
But one of them, if everyone's busy, aren't they? So nobody wants to go near anybody.
That's it, yeah.
So Lloyd, what's going on? Fill us in. What's happening?
So I'm an amateur underwater videographer as well, and I got thrown into diving by my dad then, who was a PADI instructor. And between me and my little brother then, he sort of trained us up a little bit at a time. When my brother emigrated to Australia, then I stayed here to be with dad as well then. He slowly started teaching me the ropes and everything, fell into a bit of underwater photography. After a while then, you're starting to see in all the big BBC stuff and everything else. And, the thing where your dad's like, oh, go and have a go, but it'd be fun. So trying out and stuff then, we started to find like little specialist areas and stuff with different marine life that we like.
Yeah.
And after a while then, he was like, oh, come on, you've got to do this. Decide to do it properly now. So we started to look into HSE Part 4 work. So we went off to down to Plymouth with Tony Hillgrove and did the Part 4 course down there then, and was lucky enough to have a few little jobs here and there then as safety diver for certain bits and bobs like TV work and other stuff.
All right.
So then it gave the opportunity then to speak to a couple of cameramen to get some hints and tips off them then, and see what sort of stuff that they like filming and everything else then.
So did that course lead you all on? Because I know you've done it, haven't you, Jake?
Yeah.
But does that tend to help you find work?
It definitely opens the doors straight away, in a way. Doesn't matter which avenue. At least like it's almost to get into a job with a team, and then you start talking to someone, and it kind of rolls on from there. But it's what you need really to get into the industry in itself.
Bit of an outlay at first then, but it's worth it in the end.
When are you releasing what you're releasing?
So the trailer coming out next week, which is exciting. We launched the website this week, and then I think it's probably early next year into the new year to give ourselves a bit more time to get the episodes done. So it's going to be 4 episodes altogether, about 10-15 minutes each episode.
Right.
Two sites up in North Wales, so the 2 shore dives that can be really done. It's kind of like a little episode that anyone can go into these dive sites and get in the water and kind of see these things. Awesome. That's one of the drivers behind it, is it's accessible to everyone. And then we go down South Wales and we join Lloyd's favourite sites down there, which is Martin's Haven. Nice little site. Lloyd says it's the deepest shore dive in Wales. Nice little one to do.
Nice.
And then finally in Stackpole, which is another nice little shore dive. And that's a great one with loads of we kind of ended up changing it a bit halfway through because there's loads of litter there, and it's a perfect dive to show how they do all the cleanup dives down there. So was a nice way to like finish off the series. But yeah, there's a lot of scones involved behind the scenes, which is why the cakes were involved this evening.
Love it. Mate, ever since me and you chatted, I've just been crying out for one. Every time I see one, I'm like, gotta send Jake this, see if my cake game's any good. How did you three meet then?
So it was last year, wasn't it now?
It all sort of just online by, chatting to people who are into similar things as you, and then Jake, you invited me over to go and do some with you in North Wales on the boat and stuff for the angel sharks. And then you guys were talking about doing this series, and I said, well, get me involved as well, So yes, so it's a bit of a trek for me to get down to North Wales. Not so bad, but Pembrokeshire's, it's a good old trek. But last time I was down there, drove back. It took me nearly 10 hours. Decided to do it on a Monday night, and there was just so many road. This is when they do all the road closures and stuff, and
that's horrendous, isn't it?
Not a bad little trip, as long as you don't have to do, back and forth twice in one weekend.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
Has somebody done that? What did you forget?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. Well, I did. I did forget or something. I didn't forget it. I lost them. I lost my car keys.
Oh, devastated.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought they were in the boot, so I paid someone to come and open my boot. And guess what? They weren't in my boot either. So I didn't have any car. Just got out of the water, all the dive kit in the car and everything. We're like, we can't leave this in Martinshaven. So I couldn't think, on a Sunday, you can't do much on a Sunday either. So we kind of had to come to a conclusion where Lloyd's dad offered to drive me halfway to meet my mum to bring the spare keys.
Wow.
To Aberystwyth, and then ended up going down there. Luckily, the key was the starter key as well, because I had a scenario before where you bring the replacement key and it can only get you in the car and not start it. So yeah, we finished the dive, and I didn't get back into the place until about 11 o'clock after the day's diving. That was my error of the whole series. It was pretty bad.
Are you going to do like a little faux video for the end to finish it off? Like your outtakes, that kind of thing.
I feel like we should have had just an extra person filming the whole time, just for these moments, because it would have been quite funny now. At that time, I don't think it was that funny. Like, everything could be like, all right, it's going to cost even more. This is another thing and another thing on top. It was painful.
We're going to have a bit of a behind the scenes thing
cool.
for it. Maybe we're not sure if we're going to do like a little bit at the end of each episode or just something at the end.
I kind of do that with the podcast. I have a little bit of a chat with you before, and I'll try and just take a snippet of that. And I kind of like that sort of, you see a personal side that perhaps you wouldn't see in the chat. That little bit of humour behind the scenes is, I think it's always worthwhile sort of picking it up. What's probably the most individual thing about your sort of type of videos?
English, aren't you?
Yeah, that's going to be the fun bit for Ollie. I think he's already dreading doing this stuff.
Have you tried?
Well, I speak absolutely no Welsh, but Jake's done all the audio and set it out for me so it's in English and then in Welsh.
Right.
So I can sort of cut it up and then put it together, one under the other or whatever, whichever version we're doing. But I've got no idea what's being said, so as I'm running through it, I'm like, absolutely no idea if this is right or not. So it's going to have to be the boys checking through it all for me. So,
that's got to be the most horrendous post production ever. If you're just talking absolute no idea what they're saying.
Yeah, well, I was always joking that I don't think Welsh sounds any different in or out of a full face mask underwater. Just
yes, mate. Oh.
I'm only allowed to say that because I'm going to sit here and listen to it all over and over again in the office.
So am I right in thinking what you told me? You spent pretty much all this year filming for this.
Altogether, it was actually 4 weekends.
Yeah, we got started quite late because we were meant to be a bit earlier in the year, but we were only able to sort of get met up maybe halfway through the summer, weren't we? So
we were really limited, which meant each weekend was about 4 or 5 dives within 2 days. So getting in the water 10 o'clock first dive, and then like we said, getting out the water that evening. Well, there'd be the early next morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, to then get back up at 9 o'clock to do it again. To fit as many times dives and everything into it.
I'd never heard that term, that you've been using, the bruvs. I'd never heard of them before until I spoke to you, but I've made my own. Well before I took it, we were on Cable Bay on Anglesey, and it was literally a little wire cage on a piece of lead, and I took my GoPro on a little tripod and just sat them in front of each other for an hour or so. We went off and did a dive and come back, And it was only when we were chatting, I was like, well, that's kind of what you've been using. But now I'm seeing them everywhere. Everyone's using them. It's like the most common thing that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's kind of everyone's jumped on that thing now. It's pretty cool though.
It's not your invention, is it?
No, it's been around for about 15 years. It was done out in Australia the first time. As always, everything's done out that way first. But hopefully next year as well, we might be bringing out some more exciting brew stuff between us, which is going to be some trial and error over this winter, making new designs and putting them in some new places, kind of bringing the series a bit more of a twist as well.
Right.
Hopefully we can kind of continue this type of series between three of us and develop it a bit further. It should be a laugh.
Mega.
Yeah, 'cause we did plan on to do, like, originally we had the idea of doing 10 episodes. So we'd go off into various different things then. So we'd have sort of a conservation-based one, then speak into organisations and individuals working around the sea and stuff, and their involvement in certain dive sites and stuff. But obviously, with everything that went on, we'd had to sort of condense that down to highlights of each area, North and West Wales then, and see how people react to the video, and then pick up with it for a potential season 2 then.
Like I said, on that trailer I watched, it looked as good a quality as I'd expect to see on like the BBC or whatever. So is there any more specialist equipment than just your run-of-the-mill GoPro that perhaps I'd have or someone else?
We've got all three of us got pretty decent video cameras now. So Ollie's now got, recently during the summer, a Z cam.
Right.
And the quality that comes out of this little box is pretty cool. I think it's 6K.
Right.
When I first saw it, I didn't believe the size of it. Pretty good. But yeah, so it was only last weekend really of diving filming that he brought it along with him. So a lot of it then is filmed on, I was using a Sony A6300, a standard photography camera. Lloyd was using
I got the Sony AX700 in like a little gates housing and stuff. But the only difference was, because mine and Jake's was so, we had like little lenses on them. But I think Ollie had like an 8-inch dome on it or something. So there's like a lovely little sequence of Jake presenting to the camera. And we were on the cleanup dive and we just found this big paddleboard paddle.
Yeah.
And I thought I was out of shot, so I did ruin the shot a little bit, and I'm sort of flying around the top of Jake. Yeah. Jake can't hear me because he's presenting, and I'm just whispering to Ollie, I'm a little witch, I'm a little witch. And then back on the footage, you can actually see me clear as day, just floating around Jake's head on his little broom. And it's like, great. So there's a lot, while Jake's doing his best David Attenborough style pieces to camera and stuff, and we just sit in there trying to wind him up and stuff behind the camera.
Wow. Come on then, let's have a look at your new toy.
That's the camera.
Oh, it's sexy that.
Little box.
See different lenses and that on the front, but the real part is the underwater bit, which is not so easy to lift. But
see, if you'd have showed me that before, I'd have known straight away that it's you that hangs around with David Diley, because that looks very much like what David Diley uses.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. His is even bigger than this actually. So he's got the Eva 1, the Panasonic.
So to pay for that, do you have to do butler in the buff and things like that to really rein the cash in being a joiner? Or have you got a horrendous credit card bill? Because that's got to be worth more than my house, I reckon.
No, it's not that. It's probably, I don't know, all in camera and housing and everything, probably about 10 grand.
That's not horrendous, is it?
For what it does, it's pretty reasonable.
Awesome.
You can justify anything.
But you can you? I've just paid pretty much that for a rebreather, and I've no real reason to buy a rebreather, but I had every reason to buy that, and I wish I had now, because I could be using it.
Overall, it's not the highest end camera equipment that we used to get it, and a lot of it was done on GoPro as well, because it's perfect for like all the behind the scenes stuff and quick catch the moment.
Yeah. Well, that brings me on to probably my last question then, about the behind the scenes bit. Not so much the final cut, like the editing bit, but before you even getting in the water. I don't mean planning your dive, I mean planning the actual video. I've got some video to do. This is not for the purposes of this, but I've mocked up like a little storyboard thing to try and fill in and get myself an idea. Do you have that kind of mindset, or you just go in, film it? Jake's face says it all. Do you just Pretty much get to where you're going and hope for the best then?
We kind of have a rough idea sometimes where you're like, okay, we need these sort of shots, you know, nice over-the-shoulder establishing shots of things. But after a while, we sort of think, nah, we'll just wing with it on the day, you know.
Yeah.
Or ideal scenario, you get to the beach, it's flat, calm, the sun's shining down and everything is dolphins bouncing outside the bay. Where you get it, the winds change direction and it's just howling straight in. As the majority of the stuff we tried to do on the weekends was, like the certain sites we tried to hit up, and it was just nightmare. So we're like, okay, we'll have to change that and amend it for certain aspects.
And obviously, working with wildlife, you can never plan whether it's going to be there or not. You have a sort of a wish list of what you want to see, but once you get down there, if you're lucky enough to see it, you just got to like shoot as much as you can and think on your feet and move around, get through shots from different angles, whatever you can really. So
do you find you're doing loads of B-roll then? And then if you're lucky, you get a bit of A-roll?
Yeah, there's a lot of B-roll. There's a lot of B-roll.
We were lucky with the aspect that we've got 3 cameras in the water. So if there's, like, for example, the majority of the stuff then we were doing pieces to camera with Jake. So majority of the time then it'd either be myself or Ollie filming Jake.
Yeah.
And then whoever wasn't filming Jake would get shots of us filming each other. So it was sort of like the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So then we had a GoPro rig on Ollie's shoulder. So it was just to the side of him filming what he was filming. But then it was Ollie's GoPro filming Ollie, filming me, filming Jake. So it was a little bit like an Inception dive.
I'm confused already now. It doesn't take much. I'd suggest that this year has probably seen more podcasts, more YouTube channels, and probably more work done on Instagram this year than I ever had before. So if people who are trying to get into this game and are well behind the curve than what you are, with obviously a decent rig and your idea of what you're looking at and idea of camera angles and drone footage and all the rest of it, have you got any bits of advice you'd perhaps give someone starting a YouTube channel or starting doing videos of any kind?
Just jump in, grab a camera and spend as much time underwater as possible and find your niche in a way. And
find the subject and just research it then and do as much background on it as you can then, so you're spending minimal time in the water but it's all on the subject then, you're not trying to run around for everything else. You know what you're looking for and you can just maximise your time underwater.
I think you can't go wrong just by getting on with it and doing things. I mean, that's like on a different level. That's sort of why we've ended up doing this series, because this year other work's been a bit low and we're thinking, you know, what else can we do? Well, we'll just go shoot our own series.
This is what we enjoy doing. These are some of the amazing sites that we have. And look, there's more to Wales than these massive big dolphins that get off the coast and things. And we've got the little things that are kind of overlooked all the time.
Yeah.
So that was another reason behind it, is there's so much diversity. And even these little shore dives, I've done 1 million times, and then Lloyd's done his one 1 million times. But every time you go, it's something different. That's the real part. And it's like the passion behind it and the passion about being underwater and enjoying the marine life.
We just wanted to show like different aspects of the dives. Like Jake said, you know, we go to certain dive sites and people still say to me, well, why do you still dive that site? Surely you've seen everything now, you know.
No.
People say, oh, I've dived there for a weekend, I've seen everything. And I say, okay, have you seen the Jewel and Enemy Cave? No. Have you seen the Outer Reef? No, there's an Outer Reef? Okay then. And then, have you seen the spider crabs there? No. Have you seen the cuttlefish there? No. So you haven't really seen it then.
And the thing is, if you come back next weekend, it'll be a completely different dive site, won't it, in many respects?
Yeah, completely. Like, I was in Port of Skyline earlier. Nothing like it was when we filmed it back in when we filmed it, July.
Yeah.
Completely. Looks barren, massive big chunks of kelp just everywhere. It looks a bit dead, really.
Right.
But come April-ish next year, it'll be back to life. Loads of fish, everything coming around again. And it's like, that's completely different. You'll never see that part again this year.
That's it. The dive sites I go, the local ones, that are just old quarries and that. It's always high tide, it's always good weather, and it's always the same. It just gets colder.
You must be touching about 5 degrees there now.
Mate, the way I harp on about how cold I get on dive sites, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
It's probably 10 or 12.
It probably is. This is coming out next week. The series is coming out next year.
Yeah.
What's next in store for you?
Hopefully we can go further and try and get this onto a bigger network, try and get it with maybe a bigger online series.
Yeah.
So it's trying to grow this now. We've done this year, we know what we can do, and we know it can do better too. So by doing those elements, we know where we want to go. Actually, probably explore some other sites offshore.
Whose is that yacht that you're on? Don't tell me it's yours, Jake.
That's fine, yeah. Well, compare it for.
Someone's
But they
doing
don't
all right,
use
isn't
it,
he?
we just take it. So yeah, we were supposed to have a weekend on that, but because of the season as well, the season was cut short. Weather gets pretty bad after June. We weren't able to do it, but Ollie did a weekend with us last year on it. So hopefully again next year we could use that and have maybe an episode going on looking at some sites using that as well. You pop across the border for a weekend diving next year.
I tell you now, if ever there's an option, mate, I'll be there. Don't worry. I used to hang around there quite a bit, but it's just another hour, innit?
Yeah, it's quite far.
I'll see you, Andy.
I'm in Wigan, mate.
I'll pick you up on the way from York then.
Oh, mate, that'd be ace.
Go over.
Yeah, we've got a little special project going on up with Jake next year anyway that's going to require a lot of our offshore attention. So, you know, there's always room for one more.
Just stock up on scones.
Oh, mate, don't.
That other trailer video we've got, the behind the scenes one where it's the last dive and it's all scone based.
You definitely need that.
It's coming out next week, that one is. It's a warm-up.
What day are you releasing your release?
A week Monday.
So that's out on the 16th then, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
A bit ahead time.
All right, chaps. Nice one. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us on, Andy.
Yes, thanks for having us.
No worries. If I don't see you, have a fantastic Christmas.
I'll expect the bug in the post and we'll send you a calendar as someone suggested we should do.
Well, I tell you what, I think you should do one, definitely. Obviously, more pictures of them two, not you. I've seen enough of you.
I think we've got plenty of these two, don't worry. We've got a good game as well to find Ollie across Wales.
Scones covering your bits and your nips. Oh, that'd be ace.
Oh, don't tempt us.
Ace. Right, take it easy, boys. See you later.
See you later.
Have a nice weekend. Ta.
Okay.
So that brings us to an end of another bonus episode with my friends Jake, Lloyd and Ollie. Links to all the things we discussed are in the podcast notes. You've been listening to Are You a Scuba Diver? Fancy a Brew podcast with me, Andy the Northern Diver. You can find more scuba related content on my YouTube channel. The link is in the podcast notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review. And to become a patron of the podcast, visit www.patreon.com/Fancy a Brew. There you'll be able to see the different levels of subscription and how to join the Fancy a Brew community. If there's someone or something you'd like us to discuss, please let us know via our Facebook page. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.